Good evening, everyone. We're all kind of loading into the room. Thank you so much for joining us. And we are now live on Facebook. So hopefully we've got some people on Facebook as well joining us too. And I just want to say thank you guys so much for being with us tonight. I'm going to do a quick housekeeping, a few housekeeping items before I hand it off to our executive director, Michelle Sudduth. Please be sure to check the chat function. So when you look at the bottom of your screen, if you are on Zoom, you'll see that little chat bar at the bottom. Please pop that open because we'll be sending you a few links there. And just want to also mention that we will have a survey at the end so that we would really appreciate your feedback. If you have the chance to just spend a couple, 2-3 minutes filling that out, that would really help us make sure that we're sharing the information that you all need, and that we are also reaching the folks that we're hoping to reach. So with that, I will hand it off to Michelle.
Well, great. It's so nice to see everyone here today. I was telling my team that it felt so nice to get ready to come to an open house. You know, I kind of dressed up and everything. So I'm feeling like this is such not a normal COVID night. So thanks so much for giving this evening so much purpose, and great to see everybody. I'm not going to introduce my team because I think everyone has a speaking part, and they will be introducing themselves, and you will see how wonderful the team of CASA is. What I will say is just give you a very top line overview of CASA-EP's mission. I'm sure you have enough interest to know that what we do is become the voice of children who are before the courts because of abuse and neglect. You'll learn way more about what that means. I'm inspired by our volunteers every day. Every day I hear an amazing story about what some of our volunteers have done, whether it's driving to Philadelphia to see a child who they've been assigned to for years, or hearing stories even from across the country where volunteers are walking one of their former children down the aisle at their wedding. So I'm inspired every day by volunteers, many of whom are on the call today, and you'll hear more about their work. I hear from them, and not only one, not only two, but I think a few people have said, and I've said this before, that our volunteers say this is one of the hardest things they've had to do, and I think they mean both as a volunteer and professional, as well as the most gratifying. So I would encourage you all who are exploring CASA for the first time to think about that as you ask questions or engage with staff and our volunteers who have so graciously tuned in with us tonight. You know, what does make this so hard? And then also what makes this so gratifying? Because you'll hear a lot about that, you know, both in terms from a life-changing and what change they can have on a person's life, as well as the camaraderie that people build with our staff, as well as with each other. So have fun tonight, and many thanks to our team. I want to just recognize Susan Caperton. She's our most awesome president of the board. And Susan, I don't know if you want to do a quick welcome and then just turn it over to the group and we'll get started.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you so much. Hi, I'm Susan Caperton, and I'm the president of the board of directors of CASA of the Eastern Panhandle. And on behalf of the board, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us tonight. We have a wonderful team who are going to be talking to you guys and telling you more about CASA and the work we do. I've gone through the training. It's fantastic. I don't have any cases right now, but I highly recommend it. If you have any questions, please speak up. And thank you so much for being here. We're glad to have you.
Well, thank you, Michelle and Susan. One of the things that we always really like to open with is a video that really tells the story of what it is to be a CASA and what the role is and the things that you encounter. So we will play this video for you here in just 1 second. Give me one moment, I'll set it up.
Growing up is tough for a kid. They have school and homework, practices and games, there are doctor's appointments and detention halls. The making friends and the keeping friends, discovering who they are and who they aren't. There's so much to learn. There's this whole world out there, right here. These times are transforming in someone's story, and they can really be quite chaotic. That chaos of being a child only increases when abuse and neglect fill their home. The normal winds of chaos are now a storm, and sometimes, when the storm is so great, a child must be removed from their home. And this is a really tough day. It's complicated and it's painful. When a child is removed from their home because of abuse or neglect, they leave their normal and they enter foster care. The court sends them to a new place, a new home, often to a new school with new people, new everything. And all of these new things aim at a better life for the child. They aim to help in the healing process for the family. But it's still tough. They still have the school activities, the doctor's appointments, and the lessons to learn. But now court dates, visits with parents, and check-ins with social workers quickly bombard the calendar. And there's the pain of separation from what they know and where they feel comfortable. There are hundreds of children in our city who experience chaotic days like this, weeks like this, years like this. And these days, weeks, and years are difficult. They're exhausting and isolating. They're really tough. But there are ways to help. Ways to bear the burdens the child is carrying. Ways to make the days less tough. These children need to feel more supported. They need someone constant who is on their team. Someone who is fighting for their best amidst all the shuffle. And a CASA volunteer provides this help. A court-appointed special advocate helps bear these burdens. They are the constant amidst the chaos. In the middle of all the shuffle and uncertainty, they know the child. There are still tough days, but now there's someone standing up for the child, day in, day out. Someone who knows both the biological and foster parents. Someone who meets with the teachers, doctors, and social workers to ensure the child's needs are being met. Someone who speaks for the child's best interest in court. Someone who the judge counts on for insight. Someone who cares about the child and just lets them be a kid. Someone who is there for the tough days, the great days, and the in-between days. This someone is so important. This someone is a CASA volunteer. And there are hundreds of children in our city waiting for a CASA volunteer. They're waiting for someone to speak up for them. They're waiting for someone to help weather the storm. Each child in foster care needs this support, this someone to count on. Be this someone for a child in foster care. Be their advocate. Be a powerful voice for their best interest. Be a CASA volunteer.
And with that, I would really love to introduce Carrie Lefebvre. Carrie is one of our volunteer supervisors, and she's going to share with you a little bit more about our specific program and some of what we've experienced in 2020 and a few numbers to kind of let you know where we stand and what we've accomplished this year.
Thank you, Julia. Welcome, everyone. I see many familiar faces. I'm so excited to see Ricky and Daniel and Cassidy and Taylor. I've already talked to you, and I'm so happy to see you here tonight. Excuse me. When we are talking about what the true impact of a CASA volunteer can have on a child, we know that children who have a CASA advocate are more likely to succeed in school. They are half as likely to re-enter the foster care system, and they're more likely to find a safe, permanent home faster than a peer who would not have a CASA advocate. The video is absolutely correct in saying that there are hundreds of children who are waiting in our communities for CASA advocates. Right now, there's approximately 535 children who are before the courts in Jefferson, Berkeley, and Morgan counties, which are the counties that we serve. And right now, we are able to meet the need of advocacy for approximately 48% of them. Fortunately, we have had such a wonderful year in 2020 in our growth that we've been able to increase the number of children we're able to serve by increasing the number of volunteers who have chosen to be involved in the CASA organization. So the more volunteers that we're able to train and get out into the field and continue to support, the more children in our communities we're going to be able to serve. I will say that unfortunately, we have noted about a 60% increase in the number of children before the courts from between 2019 and 2020. It's hard to say what the cause of that is, but unfortunately, the need is there. And so we are so grateful to see that you are interested in learning more about how you can make a difference in this system, and here for any questions and support you may need.
Thank you, Carrie. And we'll be happy to take questions in a little bit as well from staff. I also wanted to introduce Dell Pope. Sorry, I'm trying to find Dell in my screen. Dell is going to share with you all. Oh, I'm sorry. Forgive me just a moment. I actually want to feature Darah. Dell's going to come afterwards. Forgive me. I'm still figuring out our virtual format. So really, Darah had joined, I think maybe a year ago, and maybe a little bit more than a year ago. And so Darah is actually here to answer some of your direct questions for an advocate. And certainly if your questions for our staff filter into that, we'll be happy to talk about that. What Dell is going to share after Darah speaks is a little bit more about our training formats and what we're doing in 2021 to meet the need that we really saw kind of exponentially, increase in 2020. So Darah, please take the floor, and I will spotlight you so everybody can get a good look.
Thank you. Hi, folks. Dell, it must be alphabetical. In any event, I've been given a few minutes as a volunteer to speak with you, and I wanted to leave some time for questions if any of you have them. Julia has asked me to talk about my experience as a volunteer, and let me start out by saying this is a wonderful thing to do, and I'd really encourage anyone who's interested to sign up and do the work. It's a good thing for the children. It's a good thing for the volunteers. So in any event, I'm kind of odd as a volunteer. I have a background as an attorney, and I spent a lot of time in courtrooms before I retired. Some of that work was with juveniles. I also have a background where I taught for 7 years in an alternative high school for children who couldn't make it in the mainstream high school, which was a wonderful experience. I loved those kids. In any event, so I come to this with a little bit of background, and I know that you all probably, at least most of you walking into this, are coming into something new, some new territory, and would have some concerns about boundaries and what you can do, what you're allowed to do, what you should be doing. And so that's some of what I wanted to leave time for questions for. Julia asked me to talk about the time commitment. I currently have 4 open cases, although not all of them are as active as some of the others. And I would recommend that you start out with 1 case. And if you feel that you would like to be a co-CASA with someone on that case, that you should do that. In terms of the time, at the start of a case, when you first get into it, there's time you have to spend doing work. and people you have to talk to, meet with, and especially the children and whatever living situation they find they're in at the time. But then the work kind of evens off a little bit, and you're doing something regularly, like talking to the children regularly, visiting their home regularly. And COVID has thrown a little bit of a wrinkle into that. And we can talk about that more if you'd like. But if they're in school, you talk to their teachers and if they're therapists or other service providers that the Child Protective Services provided for them, you might want to talk with them also. The point of all of this is you're going to prepare a report for the court, and this is part of your training if you've already had it. And what the court is interested in is your opinion. And the court is very interested in the CASA opinion. The judges want to know what we think. So you do the best you can with the investigation and you give the court your most honest opinion. A lot of the time, you're going to agree with where everyone else sees the particular case going, but sometimes you may have a slightly different point of view, and the court would appreciate knowing that. So I don't consider the time commitment onerous in any way. It's very easy to do, very easy to do. And it's enjoyable. I enjoy the time I get to visit with the kids I have, frankly. Kind of fun. So I don't know if there are any questions. Well, okay, the meaningful part of the job, Julia asked me to talk about this too. And I'll just say a few words. You're in a position to provide stability for children that may find themselves in a somewhat chaotic or a dysfunctional situation. You can be the evenness that flows throughout the entire case. And I know there are other CASA volunteers have developed strong relationships with the children that they have. And some of those relationships continue even beyond the time when their court case is officially closed. They're no longer acting as a CASA volunteer, but that relationship got established. So you provide stability in a situation that may not be entirely stable. So any questions?
Darah, I was just wondering if you could say a little bit more on how you got paired and how you decided to do the COVE CASA work.
I went through the training. Thank you, Michelle. I went through training with another fellow who is very interested in doing this work. He doesn't have the background I had, and he felt a little unsure of himself, and so we started doing cases together, and it sort of continued over. Actually, we keep doing cases together, and we have a court hearing in one on Monday. Phil prepared and sent the report on to the CASA, and it got filed. I saw that it was in the court documents, so which is good. I also did this work in Vermont before I moved to this kind of work in Vermont before my wife and I moved to West Virginia, and I was on one case in Vermont, for example. There were 3 of us on that case. And some of it had to do with the fact that we all traveled at one time or another and weren't available to go to court. And so we would cover for each other. And if there were a lot of people to interview, to talk to find out what was going on, we would split that work up. And then, consult with each other as to what should be put in a report to the court. So in any event, you should feel free that if you want to be a co-CASA with someone, to make that known to the staff at the office, and I'm sure they'll be happy to have you do that.
Great.
You got a
Thanks, Darah.
great staff, great staff. They're in it. So,
I had a few questions if now's the time to ask those.
certainly.
So how long does a volunteer typically work with a child?
It depends on how long the case goes on. I'm sorry, I'm giving you a long answer. The cases have a certain longevity to them. So say it's a year and a half or so. And so normally volunteers don't come in right at the very start of the case. There's the preliminary hearing if you had the training, and we usually don't get assigned until after that's happened, although I've gone into court on preliminary hearings in one of my cases at least. But in any event, so, you figure as long as the case is in the court, you're assigned as the CASA for that case, for those children. So say a year and a half, maybe a little less than that. Some cases are abnormal. They'll go on for a lot longer than that. But there are actually timelines that are set by law for the court and for CPS to act. And so those sort of drive the timeline.
And then what about if there are multiple children in the same family? Is one volunteer assigned to all the children, or does each child get their own advocate?
I've handled multiple children. Maybe staff has more experience with how those assignments are made than I do. So I don't know.
The CASA is assigned to the case. Where's Carolyn? The CASA, there you are. The CASA is assigned to the case, and that includes the number of children that are listed in the petition. Now, let me also say this. Though there may be multiple children listed in the petition, there may only be one or two children that are the focus of the case.
That's true.
I have a question. Is the ultimate goal to either place the children in a foster or adoptive home or return them to their biological family, or is it not as cut and dried as that? Is it one or the other, or is there other options that are available? Like, what is the end result? What is the end goal?
Carrie or Dell might be in a better position to answer that than I would.
Statutorily, the department is required to work towards reunification of the children with their biological family, unless there are a certain set of circumstances called aggravated circumstances. And that the department's obligation to work towards reunification is in place until it's no longer necessary, meaning that the parents have not demonstrated that reunification will be in the best interests of the children. So it's what is done is called concurrent planning. And so there's always two tracks that the children are on, and those tracks run simultaneously. The primary goal will be reunification, but the concurrent plan will be permanency of some sort. Now, in the training, we'll talk about the different kinds of permanency and which permanency is better for, certain age groups or the child's needs, etc. But the ultimate goal of CASA advocacy is finding a safe, permanent home for children as quickly as possible. So as the advocate, you would be monitoring the parents' progress towards reunification, reporting on that to the court, and also reporting if the parents are not making progress, and making recommendations as to what would be the best permanency option for the child.
And that could be a kinship placement too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to add to that, if I could. Great answer, Carrie. I just wanted to also, and this is kind of good, helpful information, that it's not only statutorial, obviously we will follow those guidelines, but we're part of a national CASA association, and we're accredited. We do accredited training, and as part of their standards, our goal is to first, reunification is the CASA first goal as well, when it's safe to do so. So the bias is toward reunification until it's no longer safe to do so.
I had another question. So given that these children are being removed from their home for concerns for their safety, could you address the safety of volunteers?
You want me to take that?
Are you asking me? Because I thought Darah would be good to take that too.
Okay.
I've never felt threatened. It's a good question. I mean, when I was living in Vermont, there was one serious incident of a volunteer or a social worker being attacked that I was aware of. But and I asked Dell this actually when I went through the training with him. I asked him the same question pretty early on. I think we're fairly safe. The COVID is kind of a funky thing, and CASA will not push you. The staff will not push you if you're reluctant to visit a child in person. And you can do it over the phone. You can do a video conference. There are a lot of other things you can do. I'm kind of a Luddite, and I prefer to see the kids myself so far, because it also gives me a chance to look around the home while I'm there and to see how they're relating to other people as opposed to have them on a fixed screen. So I get to look at other stuff when I go to the house. Well, I hate, I'll say it. I don't believe safety is a concern. You just got to be smart. That's all.
And that's another bonus to working with a co-CASA. If you've ever, if you ever feel insecure about a situation that you're going into. But as volunteer supervisors, we're also available to talk to you about that, prepare you for those situations, talk it through if you have concerns. And ultimately, CASA would never ask you to do something that made you feel unsafe.
Right.
So on that same topic of safety, are the parents on board with like CASA volunteers? Like they understand that this is part of a potential reunification process, and that so therefore they're more agreeable to, CASA volunteers coming into their home, or, working in the public school system, I've dealt with parents before, and that can be dicey. So it's just, and when it's on their turf, I would imagine that would add an extra layer to that. So
we equip you with information to share with parents so that they understand clearly what your role in the case is. Also, the attorneys who represent those respondents are very familiar with the CASA program and can also be a source of information for them related to what we do. But we take very particular attention to inform you as the CASA so that you can inform the respondent parents. Now, does that mean that you'll always be greeted with a smile and a hug? Absolutely not. And of course, as you just stated, you know this from your experience in the school system. And so, you just, many times when you read a petition, the petition will read as though the parents are one way, and then when you meet them in person, they're nothing like what you read in black and white. So, you know, you always want to have that awareness about you, that what's written on the page is going to be different from when you meet the people in person. I don't know if I answered your question or not.
I haven't run into any trouble with a parent yet, and in fact, I've been able to be on pretty friendly ground with the parents that I've dealt with, and there's actually you'll call them up on the phone to try to set up a time to meet. You can catch their attitude immediately from the phone call, so you know you're going to know what you're dealing with. But I found when I meet with people in person that they're as confused by the court process as anyone. Well, they are very confused about the court process. And if you take the time to explain to them where the case is, what happens next, what they need to do to get ready for whatever is going to happen next, and where they show up, and is it remote or is it in person? If you just tell them what's going on, they tend to trust you, and it's actually a way to get them to open up to you, because they're probably not hearing it from anyone else.
And supporting the parents in getting healthy parenting skills, if they're addressing substance use disorders or mental health issues, ultimately that only serves to benefit the child.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
I just want to take a minute and recognize Daniel Clark. He's had a question for us. We've had a really engaged conversation. I just want to make sure we give Daniel the floor for a minute.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Actually, the last passage of conversation was very, very intriguing and helpful. So that's what I kind of wanted to let that run. I actually had a question about the kids and permanence. So in a situation where there's a removal, and can we just talk a little bit more about what that is? I mean, is it always possible to place a child in a permanent home, or do they find themselves kind of hopping around different foster, homes and places? And, I speak from experience as well.
Del might have more experience with this, or Carrie.
I'm going to defer to Carrie.
I would say it has been my experience working in this community for about 8 years of these communities in the child welfare system, that they try very, very, very hard not to move children. And typically children are not disrupted from a placement without good cause, whether that's a behavioral issue that the caregiver is unable to meet. There could be a lot of different reasons why a child's placement might disrupt, but I have not seen that happen on a frequent basis in our communities. I think that the department tries very hard not to do that. And there are requirements for them to pursue looking at familial placement or kinship placements as well, to try and minimize the impact and the trauma that the child is experiencing.
Thank you guys so much. If there's more curiosity, more questions that come up, please stop us at any point. I'm really enthused about the fact that we've gotten so many really fantastic questions tonight. So we'll take a break just from that for a second, and we'll hand the floor over to Del, and we'll talk a little bit about training to become a CASA, and maybe that will kind of open the floor up a little bit more to some other questions later. So Del, I'm going to share my screen and let you talk about some of our training formats.
All right, very good. So thank you, Julia. And my name's Del Pope. I've been with the program I'm going into year 9. So I've been around for a little bit. I am leading the training, and I look forward to sharing with you guys in our training. I want to just share just a kind of a cursory look at what we do. The essential components of our work: we investigate, we facilitate, we advocate, and we monitor. And I'll unpack these just briefly. By investigate, what we do is we talk to and interview with individuals who are related in some way to the child, whether that be close or near kin, whether that be neighbors, as Darah stated, school teachers, medical professionals. We get to have conversations with those folks and share that information in written report to the judge. We facilitate, and by this, we serve as a point of contact, if you will, to connect services that a family may need. Sometimes the department, in their busyness of schedule, may not be able to catch every need that a child has or that a family has. And so through our work, we have the ability to be able to become aware of that and get families connected to the services that they need. We don't provide services, but we have the ability to get them connected to services that they need. So that's facilitate. We advocate, of course. We speak on the behalf of the child, not in a legal capacity. The child will have an attorney who does that for them. We'll talk more about that in training, but we advocate in written form to the judge, and we share the needs and sometimes the wants of the child with the court. Case in point, a few years ago, we had a case in which a child wanted a motorcycle for Christmas. And the CASA advocate very kindly in their report shared that that child wanted a motorcycle. They also stated in the report that, that was not possible, but they did share that because that was what the child said to them. And so we advocate, we speak on the behalf of the child, and then we monitor, which is much of what this last discourse was about. We monitor the case. We make sure we stay connected to the case until the case comes to a conclusion or to some sort of resolution by the court. We remain connected to the child and that case until it comes to resolution. So we investigate, we facilitate, we advocate, and we monitor. Now, as it relates to our training vehicles, we're super excited to let you know that February 22nd is going to be the launch of our in-person virtual training. We'll meet Monday through Thursday from 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. And we'll do that through March the 5th. That would get you the required training hours that are required by National CASA. If you are unable to attend the in-person virtual training, we are even more excited to announce that we have this guided learning module that we're going to be launching on February 1st. And what this will do is it will give you the opportunity, if you're unable to attend in-person virtual, it will give you the opportunity to participate in the training actually at your own pace, so that when you finish, you will be able to be sworn in with this class. And so if you don't have, if you work a full-time job, the in-person virtual may not be the best avenue for you. This guided learning module is going to allow you to still participate in training. And so, we have these options available for you. Just, let us know what your preference is, what's going to suit your need. Also, in our training, just a few of the topics that we cover. Of course, we talk about the Child Protective Services system. We talk about the law and the courts. We talk about the well-being of the child. We deal with trauma and resilience. We talk about mental health and poverty, substance abuse. We talk about domestic violence and cultural competence. We even have a piece in our training on advocating for older youth. Carrie has a piece that we use, Fostering Futures, where we have the ability to do a little more mentoring as an advocate. And so, we've got all of that available in our training. There's much more. It's much more in depth than what we're able to share in this platform tonight. But I want you to please, 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 please know that we are looking forward to having you as a part of our training. Do your very best to be a part of this training in February, either through our guided learning or through our in-person virtual training. I'll take questions if you have any.
Well, I'm coming at this from totally left field. I'm not well educated. I can't really drive. I have some disabilities, but I'm wondering if there is any kind of small area where I might be able to help if I go through the training.
Ricky, thank you for speaking up. Listen, I want to tell you that you would be the perfect partner for someone. You would be able to partner with someone. You could make telephone calls. You could do Zoom interviews. You can do legwork sitting right in your seat. You would be perfect for this work.
Oh, well, thank you very much. That gives me encouragement to listen and keep going.
Absolutely. All you need is the passion and the drive to do this. And I believe that you have that kind of heart. I mean, just based
Having
on your
talked
response.
to Ricky, I can say that he does have the passion.
Fantastic. That's awesome.
I'm going to feed you a little bit of a question here, just because it's one that I get so often when I'm sort of an initial point of contact for people. And, really that's, do I have to have any special skills for this? Ricky kind of touched on this. I think Darah, sometimes you have experience as a lawyer. Sometimes we have this impression that you have to have a specific set of skills. So there you go, guys.
You don't have to have a particular skill set to do this work. What I will say is that you need to be passionate about serving families that are on the fringes of our community.
And in crisis. I like
Absolutely.
to add that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you have a heart for people who are the last and the least and the left out, this is the work that you want to join with.
Thank you.
You can tell that as staff, we're clearly very passionate and excited about not just what we do, but also the team that we work with.
Absolutely.
We all say this often, that we feel very blessed to work with our whole team. So
absolutely,
it's always really exciting when we have other people that resonate with that message. So if anybody else has any questions related to training, certainly now's a great time to do that. We've got about 10 minutes left, and we have a couple of other pieces that we do want to share before we leave, but we'll take some quick questions if you have them.
What's the average age of a child that you service?
It is one of my secondary responsibilities to kind of track that information. We have a proprietary database that we use to track everything, and we'll teach you how to use that and everything. But I would say the majority of children that we see are below the age of 10.
I have a question from Facebook. I don't know if someone can answer this in a general sense, but someone asks, Carly Smith asks, what does serving look like? If you have serving opportunities from small to large, please contact me. So they're watching on Facebook Live. So
Okay, so Carly, I would begin my answer by saying this service work is unlike any other service work that you may try to engage. This is not like Big Brother, Big Sister, where you where you walk into a room filled with young people and you directly engage them one-on-one in a tutoring, mentoring sense. This work is not that. This work is participating with the abuse and neglect court system in the 23rd Circuit of West Virginia, which includes Morgan, Jefferson, and Berkeley counties. You get in where CPS does work, and you get in where the schools do work, and you put your hands to the plow trying to help children who are in, I'll use Carrie's word, crisis situations. And we do our level best through the court system to help those children come to a place of resolution, family, familial resolution, whether that be with their birth family, with an adoptive family, or in some other sense. We try to do that as quickly as possible. I guess that's my Reader's Digest version of an answer.
Del, I do have a question from somebody else. If you or Carrie, Del or Carrie, if you guys could talk about how cases are assigned and how you all actually go about mentoring the volunteers. So just kind of speaking to the fact that you are there for backup, yeah, what you can provide on that front.
All right, hey Carrie, turn your mic on. Let's go WWF on them. We'll tag team.
All righty, I got you.
Go ahead.
Well, when it comes to case assignment, we have sort of an internal triage system of identifying cases that would benefit more from CASA advocacy than others. What we are finding is that there are some cases who go through the process and everything is pretty stable and settled, and we know that things are going to have favorable resolution in those cases. We want to be identifying the children who really need somebody to be speaking on their behalf. And so what will happen is, as cases come in and once you're trained, we will provide you with a couple petitions to take a look at. You review them, and if one of them speaks to you more than one of the others, then that's the case that you will select. That's the one we assign you to. We file the proper order with the court, and you go forward from there. What was the next part of that? How do we support you guys?
Yes, mentoring and supervision. Yeah.
I absolutely. So I've been with CASA for just over a year now. And prior to my arrival at CASA, I worked as a CPS foster care case manager for about 8 years. And I love my job now so much because I view it as a position of helping the helpers. I can support and guide and mentor you as the CASA advocate who are out there in the field tapping into, we tap into our knowledge. Dell and I have worked in community together for a very long time. And so we have a solid understanding of how the process works here within these communities, of the players who are in this, and we help guide you. I might have a phone call to talk about what kind of recommendations should be made, or things like that. And that is my favorite part of this job, is talking to the advocates and helping them problem solve and move forward in the case. Del, anything you want to add to that?
No, you did great. We had a great conversation earlier today with one of our advocates around the written report. We were able to get together on Zoom. We were in the room together and really just kind of hold the advocate's hand with this report. That's the kind of things that we do. Carrie did a yeoman's job. That was fantastic.
But see, I try to do that with an advocate the first time that they're working on their report, because it is, it can be confusing.
Yes.
It can be intimidating. And there's so much information that needs to be conveyed. But I that is my favorite part of this job. That is what I love to do. And so bring it on. I need more.
Well, I'm looking at the clock, so I just want to respect everyone's time and honor that people might have dinner to eat or make. This has been absolutely one of the very best virtual open houses that we've ever had. Just phenomenal questions, and I cannot express my gratitude enough to you all, for not only our staff, but also for all of you attending, for being a part of this. I do want to end with a couple of resources, but especially with a video that is always very meaningful to us, that really tells the story of what, not just what we do in our work, but sort of what happens after all of this. What happens at the end, years later. What are the potentials that exist for some of the families that we serve? And so we have a wonderful video that we love to share, where a mother really talks about how she and her daughter have reconnected through the advocacy and work and care of a CASA. So we'll take a couple of minutes to do that, and close up here in a few.
I struggled with addiction when I was younger, early middle school, and it wasn't until I was prescribed pain pills from a doctor that I just was like, I had no idea that the level of addiction could get to the point where your physical body hurt if you weren't taking something. I was pregnant, I was in and out of jail. I didn't know that there was a different way of life for anyone that was living the existence that I was. It was full of trauma and pain. When you are locked up, you have no idea if your child is safe. You just had a brand new baby. You're trying to communicate with the jail. No one's giving you answers. You're not getting to court. You have no visit from a social worker. You have no money on your books to call someone, even if you had a number. Like, that is terrifying, right? Terrifying. And I spent months in that state. All of a sudden, this woman came into the jail, and she sat in front of me, and she told me she was my daughter's CASA, and I had no idea what that meant. But when I heard, like, your daughter, that was something I could hold on to. And she put the picture of my baby in front of me, and I had only ever held my daughter for a few seconds. So just like looking at that picture and seeing this beautiful little girl shining bright. And Michelle told me that she knows that I would have a really hard journey, but that, like, you know, there's something worthwhile in the whole entire experience, and that, you know, I could put one foot in front of another and hold my head high and do what I needed to do because that little girl needed me. And so rather than looking at me in my current state in the handcuffs and in the red uniform, I believe that she saw me for the potential. She saw my heart and she poured life into me. I swear, like, every time I touch her hand, it's just this reminder of how precious life is and how precious she is. And she, like, loves her mommy. She, like, longs for her mommy, you know. And I'm just so honored that through all the pain I've been able to heal. And she deserves that, you know. She deserves that. But I needed people walking alongside of me, pouring life into me. Anything is possible when someone cares. Absolutely. We have a bright future. And Michelle did that for me. And she did that for my daughter, more importantly. And, you know, today is the benefit and the outcome 9 years later. Like, my daughter and I are so close, all over my office. I mean, she calls me BME, best mom ever. I call her BDE, best daughter ever. She's so special, you know? And I'm so grateful that there was someone who reminded me, even in the darkest time and in the darkest place. And I wish that more individuals like Michelle, like other CASAs, like other professionals will come and remind people at their lowest moments that this doesn't have to be your future.
Gotta unmute myself. I just wanted to say, you know, we know that we're not just helping children, we have the potential to help families, whether it's reuniting families or creating new families. And so we welcome you all to join our circle, and thank you, so many of you that have already joined that circle and that have already submitted your application. We are sending the link through our chat, and if one of my staff could help me by putting that in our Facebook chat, please. We want to make sure that you all have the application through there. So that actually provides all of the background information and reference check information that we need to get you lined up for starting training and helping us and helping our current advocates and staff to continue to change a child's story. If you want to serve in or feel that you have a place in any other kind of capacity as a volunteer, not just as an advocate, please still continue to submit that application, because there is a place for you, and we are continually growing, and we have phenomenal programmatic dreams that we are really excited to fulfill, especially in 2021 and moving forward. I know Michelle and Susan will absolutely echo that, but you know, we really want to make sure that we have the right team there to help make those dreams come true, not just for our program, but for our community. So definitely, you know, check out that volunteer application, and know that part of one of the things that you can do to advocate for what CASA does is not just by being a volunteer in the court system, but also by sharing the message. So sharing what we do through Facebook, sharing our recruitment efforts and our events that we hold throughout the year, but also through donating. So we always will need advocates, but we also need supporters of every kind. So I will hand the floor back over to Michelle or Susan if they want to close out. I know we've gone a couple minutes over, but thank you all so much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, no, let me just say thank you, and shout out to the awesome CASA team, Julia, our outreach consultant, Carrie and Dell heading up training. Darah, thank you so much for spending time with us. We also have Nikki, who's a program coordinator who you haven't heard from. So we just have an awesome team. We're ready to welcome you as part of it. So thanks so much for joining us tonight. Night, everyone.
Good night.
And I did pop that survey in if anybody wants to let us know how we can continue to improve. Thank you so much. Good night.